happen. President Biden has dropped out of the presidential election. He posted his announcement on X, formerly known as Twitter, a couple hours ago, earlier this afternoon, saying that after consultations and after he believed that he wanted to remain in the race, he did not believe that it was the time to essentially stay in the race. He has endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris, for president, and already she is gaining enough support to become the nominee by the time the virtual roll call is expected to happen in the beginning of the month. I'm joined again by Parker Jackson. Your immediate reaction to this?
I mean, John, I can't say that I am not surprised. We talked about this last week during the Republican National Convention. I feel like I've seen this coming just in the polling and stuff. Well, something that is interesting to me is the fact that in that interview with George Stephanopoulos, I believe 2 weeks ago, he said that the only thing that would force him to drop out was, or it was either A, that somebody shows him the polling that says that he cannot win when it was already out there. He just chooses to not really look at it. And then B, God Almighty tells him he needs to leave the race. So it's very interesting to see that he has now officially dropped out of the race. Something else that has been reported is that as soon as yesterday, Joe Biden was still wanting to stay in this race. And then something happened between yesterday night and 1:45 today that led to him ending up suspending his campaign and endorsing Kamala Harris.
Let me read you the statement from President Biden, which was released at 1:46 Eastern. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances. We passed the first gun safety law in 30 years. We appointed the first African American woman to the Supreme Court, and we passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been positioned to lead than we are today. Never been better poisoned, I should say. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We protected and persevered our democracy. We revitalize the straighten our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my lifetime to serve you as your president. And while it's been my intention to seek election, I believe it is the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all of those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you placed in me. I believe today, what I've always had, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember who we are. That we are the United States of America. He immediately followed up by saying, quote, my fellow Democrats, I decided not to accept the nomination of and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. The vice president, following up shortly thereafter, quotes, on behalf of the American people, I thank Joe Biden for his extraordinary leadership as president of the United States and for his decades of service to our country. I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win the nomination. And she has already done that work. Many delegates, I believe the Virginia delegation already announced their backing of the vice president for the presidential nomination. But that will probably happen in just a matter of days, actually, by August 10th or August 1st, not sure which one, when there is a virtual roll call being held online just before the convention in Chicago. It has been an extraordinary day, extraordinary couple of weeks in politics. This all started, Parker, I'll remind you, after the disastrous performance by many people called it a disastrous performance by the president in that CNN debate where he flubbed a lot of lines and saying famously that he defeated Medicare.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, all of this to me, it's very strange, and I say it's strange just because of the way it was done. Um, and we usually, I mean, if I was the president, I'd want to like go and address the nation and say, okay, I'm dropping out. But for him just to send out a letter and say, okay, it's over, it just seems a little strange. I understand he's dealing with COVID and stuff, but I mean,
That's probably why.
maybe he just felt the urgent need to get this out there. Maybe he couldn't wait until next week because it's crunch time. I'm not sure. On top of all of that, like I reported on earlier a second ago, just yesterday he was saying he was in the race. His chief of staff. He sent people to the morning shows. Even this morning on all of the Sunday morning political shows, all of his representatives that went on there were saying Joe Biden's locked in the race. And then 4 hours later, we see this letter that just comes out. So I don't know if delegates came to him and donors came to him and said, we don't see a path for you to winning, maybe pushed him out, or if he just came to the conclusion on his own. It's all very strange, John.
I think that what happened was you had Speaker Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all coming in and saying, "Look, we don't think there's a path for you to win a re-election." I'm actually taking a look at the NBC News coverage. Steve Kornacki is currently going over the poll averages with Kamala Harris and Trump. It's literally 47 Trump, 46 Kamala. So it's a neck and neck. There are some people who think they'll do better with Kamala.
Yeah,
So
and
that was
another thing that
right.
I found interesting today is in your thing you were talking about, um, who's like endorsed Kamala, and you're talking about the delegates. Obama has not yet endorsed Kamala Harris to be the presidential nominee. He sent out a very weird message, basically saying that it's going to be rough waters or something like that up until the nomination, and that they're just going to vote there or something. But he never specifically mentioned Kamala Harris in any of his messages that he sent out. And if you think about it, Barack Obama's pretty much the king of, not necessarily king, but he's the most known Democrat in the whole party. So it's very interesting to see that as
He
well.
was the president under when Biden was serving. He was the vice president under Obama,
Yeah, and
and
then
he was so close.
yeah, and then of course it's been reported that Obama's been going behind Joe's back, just talking to all these people about how he doesn't think should run. I think that right now it's a relief to at least Obama and the high level Democrats that Joe Biden is out of the race right now, and Ben Camilla and somebody else has stepped in. But if Barack Obama did not send out a message when this whole thing started, and even mentioning Kamala Harris at all, I find that very strange. Like this whole day has been strange in politics. Very interesting.
It's been a crazy week. I mean, we started it
Mhm.
last Saturday with the assassination attempt on Trump. We had his nominee, JD Vance, became the vice presidential nominee for Trump, and now just yes, a week after all that, he's Biden's gone.
Yeah, it's
It's
crazy.
I
It's absolutely crazy.
all right. Let's see. Do we have a I mean, controller, do we have a video, a screenshot of Kamala Harris's campaign fundraising site? Because that immediately after he dropped out, the stuff was all changed to Kamala. Because
Really? Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
yes,
I mean, it's just like stuff is moving too fast. The news really needs to slow down, if I'm being honest, because I can't even keep up. But I mean, you have multiple people coming out and endorsing him. Rep. Clyburn called Harris the best option for Democrats. You have Reverend Clyburn, or sorry, Rep. Clyburn calling that. On top of that, people are thanking Joe and stuff like that. But something else that's interesting is what he's going to say, what the reason is. Like when he addresses the nation this week, what is he going to say the reason that he dropped out was for? Because if he goes out and he says, because remember, the two things that said was either the polls show me that I cannot win, but when has the president ever really dropped out because of polls besides LBJ back in the day? And that was a different scenario. Or is he going to say that his doctor came to him after he had COVID and told him he's not mentally fit, or not necessarily mentally, his health is not in the best stance? And that's going to be interesting because right now we're already seeing calls for him to resign the office and give it to Kamala anyway. So it's just very interesting to see what he's going to use what excuse he will use during his speech to tell the public that he's leaving the race.
I think now, if it's becoming increasingly likely that it will be Kamala who is the presidential nominee. It feels so weird to talk to her as the presidential nominee. I thought we wouldn't even be talking about her as the presidential nominee until 2028 at the
Yeah,
very least. But the focus now is who's going to be the vice president. There are
exactly.
rumors that it might be Governor Andy Beshear of California, of California. What am I talking about? Kentucky. Gavin Newsom of California. Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation. Those are the top three names as of right now.
Honestly, the way I see the top three names that you said, and I'm gonna add one more in there after I respond. Pete Buttigieg, I don't think that he'll have any. He doesn't really have a place in as vice president if you think about it, because he doesn't have any Senate experience. He doesn't have any House experience. He's the
He
Secretary of
was
Transportation.
he was the
But
mayor of South
yeah,
Bend,
but I
Indiana.
mean, he was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, but South Bend, Indiana is not that big of a town. Let's be honest. I mean, on top of that, it's very different being the mayor of a town in Indiana compared to a senator representing a state or a senator or a member of Congress in the House. So I think that Pete Buttigieg will be out automatically. Um, you said what was the other one? Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is also. I think that Gavin Newsom is going to wait until 2028 for his turn, especially if because he doesn't want to ruin his name if Kamala Harris doesn't win. So if he joins her, he goes to vice president, he leaves California, they go on the campaign trail. Kamala Harris doesn't win. I mean, we've seen it with Hillary Clinton's Tim Kaine. I mean, where's Tim Kaine been? Nobody's heard of Tim Kaine after she lost the election, and he was vice
Mhm.
presidential nominee as well. So that's something interesting. And then the other one, I'm not 100% sure on who they fully are. Another candidate that I would put in the race is the governor of Pennsylvania. I believe it's Governor Shapiro. I think that um, they're definitely going to try to grab somebody from one of these swing states to build up momentum in those states as well.
Indeed, I believe the control room is now putting up the page of Kamala Harris at Blue thing. At Blue, I should say. If I get my sources, give me 1 second to figure out. But at Blue is saying that they've raised quite a substantial amount of money, 27.5 million in the first 5 hours since the announcement of Biden dropping out. So that is a substantial number. We should note that usually if a candidate drops out, the donors get their money back, but it seems like Kamala has access to Biden's donation fund already.
And also, along with that, I mean, we've seen it with multiple people during this election cycle. Whenever a major event happens, it kind of brings people to the party. We saw it with the assassination attempt. We saw it with Trump being convicted. Remember, Trump raised like $58 million or something as soon as he was convicted, and now look, Camilla Harris just raised 27 million in the last couple hours as well. So these major events that put eyes on them really, it really helps them grow.
Indeed, it really is quite literally uh, interesting. Give me a second. I want to bring up some key points of endorsements, if I can get that correctly. She's already putting it in the fundraising emails. She's saying, quote, a couple of messages include, I am running to be president of the United States. I am honored to have the president's endorsement. I intention to earn and win the nomination, asking Americans to fight with her. Um, we should know that she hasn't officially announced she's running yet. She hasn't officially done an official announcement. There's not even a logo I could find, but it pretty much is clear that she's in the running.
I do know
Um,
that she did file with the FCC today for like I forget the name. It was like Harris will win or something like that under her name. Or so she did file with the FCC. So I mean, of course, that's indicating that she's getting prepared to get out there on the campaign trail. Um, I mean, once again, everything is just going so fast. I mean, it's crazy.
it is. There are quite a bit of decisions, and we all found out. Everyone pretty much figured out at the same time. Nope, very few people knew until the announcement was made on social media. Biden
Hmm.
will finish the term. We understand that he called his vice president just moments before the announcement, and they spoke multiple times before the decision. Already, world leaders have made their decision. One thing we haven't heard from in this broadcast was former President Trump. He's clearly made an announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said crooked Joe Biden's the worst president by far. In the history of our nation, he's done everything possible to destroy our country, from our southern border to energy dominance, national security, international standing, and so much more. He was annihilated in an earth-shattering debate, and now the corrupt and radical Democrats are throwing him overboard. He was not fit to serve from the very beginning, but the people around him lied to America about how his complete and total physical and cognitive decline. Whoever left puts it now will be just more of the same. That was on Truth Social a couple of hours ago.
And I've
Uh,
been hearing sources saying that Trump is excited to get in the race with Kamala as well, just because he thinks that he'll have such an easy time with it. Do I think he's going to have an easy time uh with the race and the campaign? No, I think that it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle than he thinks. But I mean, he's beat Hillary Clinton before, so he who knows, you know.
yes, I'm actually taking a look. Trying to figure out if she has anything. I'm just only seeing the 2021 on the
Yeah,
FEC website. Maybe it will pop up in a future thing. Let me see if I could. Yeah, I haven't seen
yeah.
anything so far.
And of course, you have world leaders reacting to this as well. Israel's president offered a heartfelt thanks to Biden, saying that we support whatever. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese thanked Biden for his leadership and says the two countries have never been stronger. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk acknowledged a difficult decision that Biden had to make and said they're um, standing safer and democracy is stronger. Then, of course, you have the Czech Prime Minister Peter Fiala, who called Biden's decision to move he's just saying basically he's excited for him to drop out, which is kind of interesting.
Yes, indeed. One more thing I should add, that we've been seeing quite a lot of things, but it's important to note that now, essentially, Biden is a lame duck president. It's
Yes, it's strange, very strange.
it is the last time this has happened, I believe, when a president dropped out was LBJ. If I can get that, let me see.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
LBJ,
yeah,
and
LBJ,
on top of
1998.
all, 98, I think it was
Yeah,
68.
1968. Sorry.
Yeah. And then, on top of all this, like we all know that Joe Biden struggles in public events, and we've seen that through the debate interviews with the media and stuff like that recently. So, are we going to be seeing a lot of Joe Biden? I mean, he doesn't really have anything to campaign for or anything to really go out and rally a crowd now. So, it's going to be very interesting the dynamic that the White House plays around with. I'm really excited to hear this press briefing whenever they hold it in the briefing room this week because the questions are going to be crazy.
Hmm. Yes, he was permitted to run for a second full term in '68. LBJ, I'm reading, but no prominent Democratic. I'm just reading from the Wikipedia article, trying to so take it as you will. There was not really any opposition. So, but there was he's founding himself in the same way that Biden has. He was losing support from his political party. He was losing support from the mayor of Chicago. Um, he was worried about his health and whatnot, and it seemed like uh in October 31st, 1968. Well, no, I'm just reading something else. He pretty much dropped out. Just months before it was in March before the convention, the 1968 Democratic Convention, which was also in Chicago in August.
Yeah. Do you think that Kamala Harris will have some sort of challenger by August? And like, do you
I don't
think that
think I don't think she'll have a challenger. I think everyone's united behind Kamala. They figured out if he was going to drop out, if Biden was going to drop out, then it was probably going to be Kamala that everyone was going to rally behind. And you're already seeing it. She's making phone calls. Her supporters are already going out. People are just supporting her. There's no way anyone, except for probably Joe Manchin, would
yes, I
support
did.
anyone else.
And I saw Joe Manchin was even considering putting his name in the hat to run, which is going to be interesting as well. He just
Yes.
interviewed on Fox News a minute ago. But on top of that, do you think it's strange that Barack Obama didn't mention Kamala Harris by name and didn't give like his give an endorsement to her?
I guess so. I mean, who? Biden? Originally?
Well, so Obama came out today with a statement on Twitter after all this came out, and if y'all can find the statement, or I'll
Yeah,
try to look
I've
for it
seen
too.
that. My
Yeah,
control
and
room,
he didn't.
the
Yeah, and he
control room's
didn't.
telling us to wrap up.
Okay, well, he didn't. Basically, he didn't endorse Kamala, which I thought was interesting. But
Yeah, I think that was
go
written
ahead.
in advance, like just before that. I think this statement's been prepared well in advance. To recap on the news, President Biden has announced that he is dropping out of the 2024 presidential campaign. He's endorsed Kamala Harris to become vice president. There will be much more later on this QBC station and in the upcoming days. We'll be on, I don't know, maybe we'll be on very shortly with the
Yeah.
Biden address. But for now, that is all the time we have. Parker, thank you very much for joining me. I'm John of Doom for Parker Jackson and everyone in the control room. Have a great night.